The priest smiled. "You may now kiss the bride." Everyone waited. 200 guests, all watching. Cameras ready. The moment they'd been waiting for. James Bennett leaned in, his eyes closed, reaching for the woman he loved, and Sarah Mitchell raised her hand and slapped him. Hard. The sound echoed through the entire church. Gasps. Someone screamed. Phones came out. James stood there, frozen, his cheek red, his eyes wide with shock. Sarah was crying, tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup, but she didn't care. "I can't marry you," she said, her voice shaking, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not after what you did." The church erupted. Whispers, confusion, shock. James's mother stood up. "Sarah, what are you—" "Don't," Sarah cut her off. She looked at James, with anger, with betrayal, with heartbreak. "Tell them," she said. "Tell them what you did." James opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked devastated, destroyed, like his entire world had just collapsed. He started, but Sarah turned away, started walking down the aisle, away from him, away from the altar, away from the wedding, in her white dress, alone. And the entire church watched in stunned silence. But to understand this moment, to understand why Sarah Mitchell slapped the man she loved, you need to know the whole story. And I promise you, by the end, you'll question everything you thought you knew about love. 3 months earlier, Sarah Mitchell was planning her dream wedding. She was 28 years old, a kindergarten teacher, kind, patient, gentle, the kind of person who believed in fairy tales, who believed in happy endings. She'd met James Bennett 2 years ago at a charity event. He was 32, a financial consultant, successful, confident, charming, but more than that, he was kind. He'd noticed her struggling with a heavy box of donations, helped her carry it. They'd talked for 3 hours, about everything, about nothing, and by the end of the night, Sarah knew this was the man she'd been waiting for. They dated for 18 months, and it was perfect. James was attentive, remembered everything she said, brought her coffee every morning, met her family, loved her mother, played with her nieces and nephews. He was everything she'd dreamed of. So when he proposed, on a beach at sunset, down on one knee, Sarah said yes without hesitation. Planning the wedding was joyful. Her mother helped with decorations. Her best friend, Melissa, was her maid of honor. James's best man was his brother, David. Everything was falling into place. The venue, the flowers, the cake, the dress. Sarah had never been happier. Until 2 weeks before the wedding, when everything changed. Sarah came home early from school one Friday. Parent-teacher conferences had been canceled. She decided to surprise James, make him dinner, spend the evening together. She walked into their apartment and heard voices. James was on the phone, in the bedroom. His voice was tense. "I told you, I'll handle it. Just give me more time." Sarah paused. Something in his tone made her uneasy. "The property is already sold. I can't get it back. The money is gone." Sarah's heart started racing. What property? What money? "Look, she can't know about this," James said. "If Sarah finds out—" He stopped, saw Sarah standing in the doorway. His face went pale. "I have to go," he said quickly, hung up. "Sarah, hi, I didn't know you'd be home." "What property?" Sarah asked. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. James hesitated. "It's nothing, just business." "What property, James?" He ran his hair through his hair. "It's complicated." "Then explain it." James looked at her, and for the first time in 2 years, Sarah saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Fear. "I sold some property," he said finally, "to cover some expenses." "What expenses?" "Just things. For the wedding. For us." Sarah felt cold. "We agreed to split wedding costs. I paid my half. You said you had yours covered." "I did. This was different." "Different how?" James looked away. "I can't explain right now." "Can't or won't?" "Sarah, please, trust me." But Sarah's mind was racing. Property sold, money gone, secrets, lies.
What else aren't you telling me?" James's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, declined the call. "Nothing, I promise." "Then why are you hiding things from me?" "I'm not hiding. You just said she can't know about this. I heard you." James looked trapped. "It's not what you think. Then what is it?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "I need you to trust me," he said finally. "Just for 2 more weeks. After the wedding, I'll explain everything." "After the wedding?" Sarah felt sick. "You want me to marry you while you're keeping secrets from me?" "They're not secrets. They're just—" "What, James? What are they?" He couldn't answer. Sarah grabbed her purse. "I'm staying at Melissa's tonight." "Sarah, wait." "2 weeks," she said. "You have 2 weeks to tell me the truth, or there won't be a wedding." She left and didn't look back. By the way, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. I love knowing where these stories reach. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah investigated. She felt guilty, like she was betraying James, but she couldn't marry him without knowing the truth. She checked their joint account. Nothing unusual. Checked his credit. Clean. But when she searched property records, she found it. James had owned a condo worth $300,000. He'd bought it 5 years ago as an investment, and 3 months ago, he sold it for $320,000. Where had the money gone? Sarah dug deeper and found transfers to a company called Mitchell Medical Fund. Mitchell, her last name. Sarah's hands shook as she researched. Mitchell Medical Fund, a private account set up 3 months ago, receiving funds from James Bennett. Total, $285,000, nearly everything from the condo sale. But why? Why would James set up a medical fund in her name? She hadn't been sick. Unless Sarah's blood ran cold. Her mother. 6 months ago, her mother Linda had been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder. The treatment was experimental, expensive, not covered by insurance. The cost, $300,000. Sarah's family couldn't afford it. They'd started a fundraiser, gotten $15,000, nowhere near enough. Sarah had resigned herself to losing her mother, had started grieving before the death. But then, a miracle. An anonymous donor had covered the entire cost. The hospital called it a charitable contribution, wouldn't say who, just that someone had paid for everything. Sarah's mother had started treatment immediately and was doing well, getting better, possibly going into remission. Sarah had been so grateful, so relieved, never questioning, never wondering, just accepting the gift. But now she knew. James, it was James. He'd sold his property, his investment, his future, to save her mother's life, without telling her, without asking for credit, without wanting recognition. Sarah should have been grateful, should have been overwhelmed, should have fallen even more in love with him. But instead, she felt betrayed, because he lied, hidden something that huge, made a decision about her family without telling her. "How dare he?" she told Melissa. Her best friend looked confused. "How dare he save your mother's life? How dare he lie about it?" "Sarah, he gave up $300,000 without telling me." Melissa stared at her. "So you're mad that he saved your mom?" "I'm mad that he kept it secret. We're supposed to be partners." "Maybe he knew you'd react like this." Sarah glared at her. "Like what?" "Like someone who can't accept help, who needs to be in control of everything." The words hit hard. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" Melissa softened. "Sarah, the man you love sold everything he had to save your mother, and he didn't tell you because he knew you'd feel guilty, because he knows you." Pause. Most people would call that love. But Sarah couldn't let it go. The secret ate at her. The lie, the secret, the fact that he'd made such a huge decision without her. She confronted him 2 days before the wedding. "I know about the condo." James went still. "And the medical fund, and my mother." He exhaled. "Sarah, why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have said no." "Exactly. It was my choice to make. Your mother was dying, and I should have been the one to decide how to save her." James stared at her. "So you would have rather let her die than accept my help?" "That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Sarah's voice broke. I'm saying you lied to me. You hid something massive. You made me think we were equals, when really you were making all the decisions. I was trying to protect you. I don't need protection. I need honesty. James looked devastated. I love you, he said quietly. I saved your mother because I love you, because I couldn't watch you lose her. But you couldn't tell me? I didn't want you to feel guilty. I didn't want you to feel like you owed me anything. I just wanted your mom to live. Sarah was crying now. But now I do feel guilty, because you gave up everything, and I didn't even know. And I can't marry you feeling like this. James went pale. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know if I can trust you. Sarah, you made a
Huge decision about my family without telling me. What else will you hide? What else will you decide for me? Nothing, I swear. How do I know that? James had no answer. Sarah left. Again. And for the next 2 days, she agonized. Should she cancel the wedding? Should she confront him publicly? Should she just go through with it and deal with it later? Her mother, alive and improving because of James, begged her to reconsider. He saved my life, Sarah. How can you punish him for that? But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling, the betrayal, the lie, the secret. So on the wedding day, standing at the altar, looking at the man who'd sacrificed everything for her, she made a decision. Which brings us back to the slap. What time is it where you are? Let me know in the comments. After Sarah walked away, after the gasps and the whispers, James stood frozen at the altar. The priest didn't know what to do. The guests were in chaos, some filming, some crying, some leaving. James's mother ran after Sarah, caught her in the church hallway. Sarah, please, whatever this is. He lied to me, Sarah said through tears. About what? About everything, about money, about decisions, about my own family. James's mother, Catherine, looked confused. What are you talking about? Sarah wiped her eyes. Did you know he sold his condo? Catherine hesitated. Yes? Did you know why? Catherine's face softened. To save your mother's life. And you didn't think I should know? Catherine took Sarah's hands. My son made me promise not to tell you. He said you'd refuse the help, that you'd feel guilty, that you'd insist on paying him back. She paused. Was he wrong? Sarah cooled her hands away. That doesn't matter. He should have told me. Why? Because we're supposed to be partners. You are partners, but partners also protect each other. By lying? By sacrificing. Catherine's voice was firm now. James gave up his security, his investment, his future for your mother, not even his own family, yours. Tears filled her eyes. Do you know what he said when I asked him why he wouldn't tell you? He said, because I want her to marry me for love, not gratitude, not obligation, just love. Sarah felt like she'd been punched. He was protecting your choice, Catherine continued, making sure you chose him freely, not because you owed him. She wiped her own tears. My son loves you more than anything, and you just humiliated him in front of everyone who matters to him. She walked away, leaving Sarah alone in her wedding dress, in an empty hallway. Melissa found her 20 minutes later. The guests are leaving, Melissa said quietly. Sarah nodded. James is still at the altar. Sarah looked up. What? He hasn't moved. He's just standing there. Sarah walked back to the church doors, looked inside. Most of the guests were gone, but James stood at the altar, head down, shoulders shaking, crying. His brother, David, beside him, trying to talk to him, but James wasn't responding. Just standing there, in the church where he was supposed to get married. Destroyed. Sarah watched, and finally, she understood. James had given up everything,
not for recognition, not for control, not to hold it over her, but because he loved her, because he couldn't watch her lose her mother, because saving her pain was worth more than $300,000, and instead of thanking him, she slapped him, accused him, humiliated him in front of everyone. Sarah pushed open the church doors, walked down the aisle, her heels clicking on the marble. James looked up. His face was red, tears on his cheeks, mascara stains on his shirt from where he'd wiped his eyes. Sarah stopped in front of him. "I'm sorry," she whispered. James shook his head. "You were right. I should have told you." "No, you were protecting me. I was just too proud to see it." She took his hands. "You sold everything you had to save my mother without asking for anything." Her voice broke. "And I slapped you. You were hurt. I was wrong." Sarah looked into his eyes. "You gave up your future for mine, and I accused you of lying." She wiped her tears. "But you weren't lying. You were loving me, the way I should have loved you." James squeezed her hands. "I love you, even though you slapped me." Sarah laughed, crying. "I love you too." She pulled back, looked at the nearly empty church. "Do you think the priest is still here?" James looked confused. "Why?" Sarah smiled. "Because I'd like to get married, if you'll still have me." James stared at her. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." She took his face in her hands. "You sacrificed everything for me. The least I can do is marry you." James laughed. "That's not very romantic." "Fine. I love you. I choose you. I want to spend the rest of my life with a man who loves me enough to give up everything." She paused. "Better?" James kissed her. "Much better." The priest, who'd been sitting in the front pew, stood up. "Should I continue?" he asked. Sarah and James turned, nodded. The priest smiled. "Then let's try this again." He reopened his book. "Dearly beloved." David, James's brother, called the family members who hadn't left yet. James's mother came back. Sarah's mother. A few close friends. About 20 people total. They gathered, witnessed, and this time, when the priest said, "You may now kiss the bride," Sarah didn't slap James. She kissed him with everything she had. And the small group applauded, not because it was a big wedding, but because it was real. Because they almost lost it, but chose each other anyway. At the small reception afterwards, just close family, Sarah's mother pulled her aside. "I heard what happened," Linda said. Sarah looked down. "I'm so sorry, Mom." "For what?" "For almost throwing away the man who saved your life." Linda smiled. "You didn't throw him away, you tested him." "That's a generous interpretation." "Maybe, but James proved something today." "What?" "That he loves you unconditionally, even when you're at your worst." Linda took Sarah's hands. "I'm alive because of him, but you're happy because of him, and that matters more." Sarah hugged her mother, the woman who was alive, healthy, improving, all because a man loved her daughter enough to sacrifice everything. 6 months later, Sarah and James celebrated their first anniversary. Not at a fancy restaurant, but at home, in the small apartment they'd moved into, after selling Sarah's place and combining their lives. James had started rebuilding his savings, slowly, but he never complained, never mentioned the sacrifice, never held it over her. Sarah had tried to pay him back, but James refused. "Your mother's health is payment enough," he'd said. So instead, Sarah had taken a second job, tutoring on weekends, and put every penny into a fund for their future, for the life they'd built together. On their anniversary, she gave him an envelope. "What's this?" James asked. "Open it." Inside was a check for $50,000. Sarah, it's not enough, I know, but it's a start. James stared at the check, then at her. You didn't have to. I wanted to. You gave up your security for me. I want to rebuild it. Together. James's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve you. Sarah laughed. I slapped you at our wedding. I think we're even. James pulled her close. For the record, I'd do it again. Sell everything. Save your mom. Take the slap. Good, because I'd do it differently. I'd say thank you, and I'd marry you without the drama. Where's the fun in that? Sarah smiled. I love you. Even though I lied? You didn't lie. You protected. There's a difference. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. James kissed her forehead. We both learned something. What? That marriage isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing each other, even when it's hard. Sarah nodded. Especially when it's hard. The lesson. Love isn't about grand gestures that everyone sees. It's about sacrifices made in secret. It's about giving up everything and asking for nothing. It's about protecting someone's choice even when it costs you. James could have told Sarah what he'd done, could have used it to prove his love, but he chose silence because he wanted her to choose him freely, not out of gratitude, not out of obligation, out of love. Sarah almost lost that because she valued honesty over sacrifice.
But in the end, she learned that sometimes the biggest lies are acts of love, that sometimes keeping secrets is how you protect someone, that sometimes the person who sacrifices everything is the person worth everything. If this story touched you, drop a heart in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Follow for more stories about love that costs everything and means everything. And the next time someone makes a sacrifice for you, even if they hide it, even if it feels like a lie, ask yourself why. Because maybe they're not trying to control you. Maybe they're trying to protect you. Maybe they're loving you the only way they know how. Sarah slapped the man who saved her mother because she valued honesty over sacrifice. But she married him anyway because she learned something more important than honesty: trust. Not in words, but in actions. Not in what someone says, but in what they give up. James gave up everything and asked for nothing, and that's the truest form of love. Remember that, and never take for granted the people who sacrifice in silence, because they're the ones worth keeping forever.